Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we're back with our Missing Character series, where we'll discuss their lore, their rules on the tabletop, and how they could translate to Total War Warhammer. Today's character is Zacharias the Everliving, a personal favourite of mine who I've recently been painting up. So without further ado, let's begin. To better introduce this character to those who might not be aware of him, we'll read over his entry into the Warhammer Fantasy Vampire Count 6th edition army book. Zacharias the Everliving. Little is known of the life of Zacharias before he succumbed to the lure of the necromantic arts. He studied under the tutelage of Dieter Hellschnitt, and it was probably due to this great necromancer's influence that Zacharias was able to discover the location of the hidden tower of the Necrarch Lord Melchior. His intentions were to sneak into the tower's crypt and steal away the Book of Nagash, which Melchior had acquired during his many years of unholy afterlife. As he crept into the tower grounds, Zacharias was caught by the minions of Melchior. That night, rather than killing the over-inquisitive necromancer, Melchior gave him the kiss of the vampire and decided to take him on as a pupil. At first, Zacharias was horrified by his new vampiric form and swore revenge on the Necrarch Lord. Over the following years, though, he began to embrace the power which Melchior had bestowed upon him. Each night, the two would rise, and Melchior would warn Zacharias that he grew bored of his company, and that he would probably kill him before dawn. But Zacharias was a keen pupil, and would constantly surprise Melchior with his capacity to learn. Melchior taught his acolyte everything he knew, but he never let Zacharias near his precious Book of Nagash. Melchior would often fall into fits of insanity, killing his living servants and drinking their blood in a great feast of flesh. Zacharias was wise and always avoided his master's wrath. It was during one of these occasions that Zacharias boldly crept into Melchior's chamber. There, on a great plinth, was the unholy tome. Unfortunately for Zacharias, Melchior returned to his chamber whilst his pupil was still reading, and a great fight ensued. Invigorated by the blood of his dead slaves, Melchior was too powerful for Zacharias, who barely escaped with his life. Deeply wounded, he fled into the Middle Mountains. For the following year, Zacharias was pursued by the minions of Melchior. From one cave refuge to the next, he would flee, tired and severely emaciated from the lack of blood. He would no sooner find a suitably secluded hiding place than his location would be discovered. Finally, he stumbled into a large, dark cavern where he found a small niche deep inside, and there he fell into a sound slumber. Totally exhausted from the fight with Melchior and the constant pursuit of Melchior's dark servants, Zacharias' rest was to last for over a decade. During this time, a black dragon also discovered the cave. Unaware of the undead abomination which slept within, she made her nest there, and, as all dragons do, gathered a small mound of treasure around her. When Zacharias awoke, his thirst was great, and the sleeping dragon was a perfect source of nourishment. Finding soft exposed flesh on the dragon's underside, he bit deep into the slumbering monster. The blood of the great beast flowed through the veins of Zacharias, empowering him with untold strength. Such is the might of a vampire that even a dragon is unable to wake up from its deathly bite. Over the following months, Zacharias drank from the great beast, draining it clean of blood. Legends say that drinking the blood of a dragon frees vampires from their need for blood for the rest of their eternal life. If that is true, then who knows what other powers were bestowed upon Zacharias by the blood of the Great Worm. Using the dark, necromantic powers he had learnt from Melchior, he raised the dragon from death and flew on its back to Melchior's hidden keep, where he fought a great battle with his former master. It is said that so powerful were the magic forces unleashed that the tower was all but destroyed. When the dust and debris cleared, Zacharias was the victor. Of Melchior, no one knows of his fate. Some say he was slain by Zacharias, who drained his blood to gain further powers. Others believe that Melchior is in hiding, licking his wounds whilst plotting revenge on his former pupil. Whatever Melchior's fate, Zacharias claimed all the magical wealth that his master had acquired and hoarded over his long rule of terror, including the powerful Book of Nagash. Now Zacharias rules over the Forest of Shadows, where both the orcs of the mountains and the people of the forest live in equal fear of the vengeance of Zacharias the Everliving. A bit heavier on the lore than we're normally used to for these types of videos, but Zacharias is a fairly important character, and if it's the case that we're going to start seeing more Vampire Count characters in the future, better we start seeing from different bloodlines than more von Carsteins. Zacharias on the tabletop was quite the powerful Lord character, considering the fact that his lore is embedded into his tabletop stats. Even as a vampire, he had incredible stats: high weapon skill, strength and toughness values, even wounds and attack values. This was a character who was not only just a powerful wizard, but extremely powerful in close combat. And also, as expected, due to the lore excerpt that we've already covered, he has the option of being able to ride a zombie dragon. Now, before we look over this character's special rules, we'll look over his magical items. Zacharias had 4 possible magical items. One was the Book of Nagash. This book granted Zacharias 1 extra spell. In addition, his evocation of Nehek was also supercharged. This could work rather interestingly in Total War Warhammer. Say that, for example, the extra spell was a supercharged map-wide version of evocation of Nehek. Next is the Staff of Camphaemon, which granted him the bound spell of Hand of Death, a spell which would do fairly decent damage to any who would be targeted. Next are the Scrolls of Semtep, which allowed Zacharias on the tabletop to carry an unlimited amount of Dispel Scrolls. I would see this translated in the Total War Warhammer series, as any battle that Zacharias might take part in, the enemies themselves would have less access to the winds of magic. Nothing too drastic, maybe -5 or -10, but even that could be noticeable. And lastly is the Circlet of Rafek, which conferred a 4-up ward save. There's not much to discuss about this, as a natural ward save is already implemented into the Total War series. But now we'll look at his special rules, which he has a fair amount of them, as 6th edition was mainly based around building your own vampire lord, with specific rules dedicated to each bloodline, but named characters such as Zacharias would benefit from all of them for his specific bloodline. First up, we have Nehekara's Noble Blood. The vampire has 1 extra magic level. So basically what this means is he would have access to yet another spell. On the tabletop, paired with his magical item, that meant that he had 6 spells, something we already see in Total War Warhammer. However, I would see this as him also getting access to the lore of Nehekara, so he would have the lore of vampires and the lore of Nehekara together. Next we have the Awakening, which buffed up the invocation of Nehek. We've already got this implemented in Total War Warhammer, so instead maybe there could be a reduction of Invocation of Nehek, and there could be a chance when the big version of the spell is done, the AoE one, it could even have a chance of summoning random units of zombies and skeletons. Those units are obviously not very impressive, so it's not very game breaking. Next we have Dark Acolyte. The presence of the vampire on the battlefield adds 1 dice to the player's pile of power dice. So this would translate rather easily. So long as he's leading an army, he would have more access to the winds of magic. Maybe this could also be a faction-wide buff too, say +5 to 10 winds of magic for every Necrach vampire lord. Next we have Unholy Zynoshor. Once per game, the vampire can re-roll 1 of the dice rolled to cast a spell. This can be used to negate a miscast result or could cause a irresistible force. This being translated into Total War Warhammer seems simple enough, where the character itself would have a reduction to baseline miscast chance. Next we have Master of the Black Arts. The range of all spells cast by the vampire is increased by 6 inches. So just increasing the range of all spells, simple enough and easy enough. And lastly, Forbidden Law. The vampire knows one more spell than he is normally allowed. This is a rule that doesn't really need to be implemented, as obviously he would already have access to 2 laws of magic. Now you might have noticed that some of these special rules are already implemented in a certain way, even if just by name in the Total War Warhammer series. So in truth, they would have to rename these rules in a different way, but some of these rules are fairly interesting and could translate rather well for Zacharias, if just for Zacharias alone. Zacharias is a fairly interesting character, and the fact that he is a non-Von Carstein character makes him a better option when it comes to new vampire lords. His lore also benefits him as a future candidate for a DLC or an FLC, as the character itself is known not to be very stationary, so he could literally be anywhere, which works in favour for Total War Warhammer 3, as it's more than likely that that DLC will be focused around the area in the Far East, or around the Mountains of Morn to be more specific. But Zacharias could easily be there lore-wise in search of any artifacts or tomes. Zacharias would probably make the perfect candidate for an FLC lord, as there's not really any units tied to him specifically. The baseline Vampire Count faction itself works perfectly for him. All he needs is a character model, voice lines, and he's good to go. In terms of campaign mechanics, it could be that Zacharias is in the east searching for artifacts, tomes and so on, but is also fleeing his former master, who doesn't need to show up as a legendary character in any sense, but could be an off-screen antagonist. But what do you guys think of Zacharias the Everliving? Do you think this is a possible candidate for a legendary lord, or do you think that this is a character who might just be forgotten about? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel has been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.